Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the next edition of the Wandering Yuki Cheese Cafe. It's such a funny name that I think I'm going to have to use that for some time, but I'm keeping myself as Wandering Yuki now. I remember a while back, I got a request from my uncle who was asking about the different types of whiskeys out there, like what is whiskey, what is bourbon, what is scotch. So I figured I'd do a little whiskey 101 for everybody's enjoyment. Disclaimer right here. If you're expecting me to take a shot glass just to do a shot of Jameson in this whole video, shut this video off because this is not what I'm talking about today. Now they got that disclaimer out of the way. Whiskey is basically a bit like beer in the sense that you're going to be distilling some grains or other kinds of produce in an old barrel and then basically let it age for a little bit to get the distinct flavor. And in some cases, you may actually add a little bit of water to it to attain the simple 40% alcohol content it's supposed to have, give or take, because there's going to be a few exceptions. So when most people think whiskey, they're obviously going to be thinking of Jameson. You know, that's a type of Irish whiskey. It's a very light floral one, and one of the cheapest ones that you could get on the market. Basically, if you're going to get a shot of whiskey in a bar, like the shot glass that I had, you're typically going to get Jameson. But then there's also other kinds of whiskey too. Like I said, there's Irish whiskey. You might have Canadian whiskey, like this bottle of Alberta Springs. Canadian whiskeys are usually distilled with rye as opposed to other kinds of grains. And based on my experience and some friends' experiences, sometimes this could actually taste like rum. Like basically Canadian whiskey tastes like old rum. And then you might have what is called bourbon. Instead of using rye, you'll probably use cereal grains in that. And bourbon is more associated with an American style of whiskey. Like Jack Daniels is one of the best known ones out on the market too. The only thing is that sometimes those are going to be super strong. Like 40% is the norm, but there's a good few of them that you're going to be looking at 43 to maybe 50%. So that only go if you're really into that kind of thing. But then the big one that's my preference is Scotch. Scotch is essentially just whiskey that's made in Scotland. That's really all it is. But there's so many different varieties of it too, and a lot of little intricacies to that. Like for example, one of the lighter ones out in the market too is Johnnie Walker, the Red Label. This is like another one of the light ones, and a tall 750 milliliter bottle at the SAQ goes for about 30 bucks too. So an easy one if you want to like get into Scotch. But then there are other ones that might get a bit more strong, like mid strength and maybe a little bit of fruitiness, like Johnnie Walker Black Label. This is one of my favorite ones too. That it's another one that's really easy to get into. Then you might have some that have a very peaty flavor, like we all joke about Tourbé, or tastes like you threw some grass in it. Cheveg is another one of those as well. And then you might have some that are considered like woody, or others that are even smoky, like this Bowmore here that I probably highlighted countless times. Each one of these comes from different regions of Scotland. Like lowlands, the highlands, you might have light and medium style whiskies. And then you might have the Isleys and Speyside that might be more on the smoky side. But there's a lot more to it, and I'm not going to get into that right now. Something else to remember too is aging. These have to be aged in a barrel for a certain amount of time. The Johnnie Walker Red Label will have the lightest flavor because it's only been distilling in the barrel for about a good 3 years. But as you go on in the years, then that's where you get a bit more of a robust flavor with it too. So like my personal preference is 10 to 12 years for the sweet spot, also for budgetary reasons. If you get anything that's like 14 years and over, the flavors might be a little bit stronger, but also comes with a price too. Like for me, for my budget, 10 to 12 years would net you maybe a good 50 to 70 bucks a bottle. 14 and over, you're looking at maybe $100 plus. And then if you're going for, let's say, 20 years, it's a pretty good chance that you're paying 100, 200, maybe a couple $100 a bottle. Those are the ones that you're probably not going to want to whip out all the time. Say for a special occasion, or if you're one of those crazy collectors spending $1,000 on a bottle, you're just buying it because you want to show off and say, hey, look what I have on the shelf. Like you can look, but you can't touch. And some of these barrels too, might have been used for other drinks, and they're aging in that to give it other properties. You might see some that look like they've been aged in sherry barrels or porto barrels, which might give it a little bit of a fruity flavor and also change the color to go from a bit more of an amber to a pinkish hue. And then there's even some that have been part of the castmates of the lineup, like with Jameson, aged in either a stout barrel, which makes it taste like a stout beer, or even an IPA barrel that gives it the hoppiness of an IPA. So it really all depends on what kind of barrels you've been aging in. Now use like a burnt barrel, then you know you're probably gonna get a smoky flavor. Kind of like when you use wood chips when you're barbecuing. Throw those in, you're gonna get the taste of that wood in the meat that you're grilling too. But that's a little bit of my Whiskey 101. Today I'm just gonna do a very small touch of it, of my Johnny Walker Black Label. This one was aged for 12 years, so not too strong, not too light. Just perfect for me. And this is the correct amount you should have, like 1, maybe 2 ounces, and you're fine. And if you're going to be taking it with ice, only take it with maybe 1 or 2 cubes of ice. Usually when people go to a bar, they'll ask for, let's say, Jameson on ice. And what they tend to do is they'll give the full glass of ice with maybe a shot. The catch with that is that once you get to the bottom of it and the ice melts, it really dilutes the flavor and you're basically drinking water. Personally, for me, I like to have it, neat, as they say, without ice. Ice, I would save mostly for the smokier ones that really have, a stronger taste, so it takes the bite out of it. And that's basically Whiskey 101. So hope you all enjoyed this video.